Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So this video is really well worth diving into some land issue, ownership issue, building a house issue, renting versus building. It was by a comment from one of my viewers had asked, would I actually consider building on leased land because we cannot own land? So I'm going to touch on these topics here. I'm going to touch some of the rules, the laws, the regulations, the pros and the cons, and the risk versus reward. So let's get right into that right after this short introduction.
Let's hit the road in the Philippines where adventures unfold with Brian's life compass with a lot our way. Guiding true, traveling just me and you. Join the journey, it's adventure time.
So to clear it up, of course, most of you guys already know foreigners cannot own land outright. It's just that simple, okay? You can put it in family name, wife name. You can try and open up a corporation. I'm not going to get into all of that because even that is risky and so on and so forth. The only thing you can legally own is a condo, and even the condo building itself have to be 60%. And I hear now some beachfront properties, 70% Filipino owned versus foreigner. So that's that. The condo is the only thing you can own outright. Let's just leave that one alone off there, and let's go right into a lease property. You are, as a foreigner, very well protected with a lease, and you can get a maximum of 25-year lease contract, okay? You can also have first right to renew. So in essence, you get 50 years. The renewal is a little bit tricky. When I say tricky, there's a few clauses. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So you have that option. You can lease. Now that's only two, or you can rent. Well, rent doesn't protect you for anything long-term, obviously, at all. So you have to now go into the lease, okay? Ownership, we already covered that. So now you can take that chance and go on and, have it in somebody else's name and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to sound that negative. That's a very viable option. The other thing I want to touch base on is rights only. Now, rights only, I used to I said, I don't want nothing to do with that. I want to be able to own when I own and how I own, right? But I'm actually a lot more open-minded to rights only now, given in the right location, okay? A lot of Filipino families have been on rights only land forever and generation after generation. I'm going to probably make a separate video just on that, but if you want more information on that, leave a comment, or curious about it or have input, leave a comment on that. I will go as far as saying, as I've seen even beachfront on it, I personally wouldn't buy that. It was on a more, very non-tourist island, but they've been there for a very long time. Now, the Coast Guard will have more rights to that than anything. They actually, like I said, I want to make a separate video on that because it's quite technical. But it brings down the price significantly, okay? I've seen a hectare as low as 100,000 pesos in Valencia. Now, this was 5 years ago, sorry. And it had no internet, no power. It was quite up in the mountain. But, a good luck trying to find a hectare now for 100,000. Rights only. So the question becomes, do you want to build? That was the main key focus question, and I want to really dive into that one because, first of all, hands down, me personally, yes, but I'm going to explain why and how I came up with these reasons, okay? So I've looked into building material, I've looked into contracting, stuff like that, and it's not that scary. Now, depending where you are, like for example, again, Dumaguete is really known for taking forever to get your power hooked up. So I don't know how efficient it is in the sense of, I was told, and I hate giving misinformation, but I was told if you just put a NEPA hut up, literally just a NEPA hut up, no other house, you're going to get your power a lot faster. So in theory, you could put that up, and then at least you could run a cord to your house or whatever and have power that way. I don't know about that for sure, but that's what I've heard. Now, would I personally build and invest? Yes, because even if you look at the aspect of renting, I find good deals, and I suggest you look at one of my other videos. I'm seriously, I always go on hunt. I enjoy it, okay? I go out and look for these deals. But Even at the good deal thing, you're going to get a 25-year lease, assuming you get this 25-year lease that you want the location to be in, and everything's available, your power, your water, road access, and so on and so forth. You've got 25 years now. So even at 10,000 peso a month rent, which is going to be bare minimum, okay? You are looking at, if you calculate, depending on how much you pay for your land, but let's put that aside now and go strictly, are you going to build on leased land? Because we're going to look at the cost for that. Now, I've broken it right down. I'm serious, man. I did this when I was in Mindoro, and this was only a year ago. I got right in there. We're talking, okay. I also used Hardyplex. It's a cement board. I did the double wall thing. I chose that because of the fact I think it's better insulation for noise. Also temperature. Cement, it sucks in the heat all day and then releases it at night. There's lots of pros on it. The only con on it in that respect is, I guess in theory, if somebody wanted to break into your house, they could just kind of take a hammer and smash down the wall and it'd get pretty easy access. But in any case, there's even a little way around that too. But taking the price in consideration, building a modest little 1-bedroom studio style. I went 13 feet wide, 20 feet, 28 feet long. Spare the details on why I chose this plan. I like an open floor plan and so on and so forth. It gave me a way to do an addition, wraparound part, etc., etc. So I went for the roof panels, the walls, the studs, that aluminum post to mount the cement board on. I also chose this because of labor. Okay, you can put this up very fast in comparison to hiring and having a crew doing the cement hollow blocks. Okay, so and I got to a point where I rounded up everything. The only thing I did not include was the septic and the cement foundation, because we, at that particular hardware store, we couldn't get an exact quote, but we got a quote on everything else. And that was 150,000. So I even said, okay, 200,000. That's like $5,000 for that. Now let's add another whole $5,000 for windows, doors, plumbing, taps, like, well, obviously that's plumbing, electrical, the lights, the fixtures, the whole 9 yards. Okay, you're looking at 10,000, and you've got yourself a studio on a leased chunk of land. Okay, well, let's face it, that 10,000 you are going to consume if you were paying rent for anything under 5 years. I consider it a win-win. Okay, so even if it went as five years, let's say it would take you 5 years to break even. Two things: during those 5 years, you're on your own land, your lease land, but you're on a location that you obviously picked out and enjoy. So you have a bigger chunk of land. You can do your own, gardening. You can do whatever you want. You can feel home. So that's going to be better than a rental place right off the bat. That adds value while you're living there. Okay, so you've got a 25-year lease, and in 5 years or so, it's going to take to break even for the cost of the house. Depending what you paid for your land, that all depends, because that depends on the location or not. But the question really was, would I build and invest? And theoretically, there's some negative comments out there saying, would you waste your money? Don't put it there. You're going to get scammed. You're going to lose it all. Well, man, anything past 5 years, you're winning and gaining. You've got no rent. Okay, so that's a very good risk reward outcome for me, I personally think. You guys think differently? Leave a comment. Give me your point of view where I'm wrong. I appreciate hearing about it and engaging that way. But it really is a cost-saving thing. And more importantly, I think, which is where we're missing the real point on this, you're happier. You're in a zone that you can really feel at home, because obviously you picked out this chunk of land, wherever it is that you are most comfortable with. Okay, that's a value that you cannot put a price tag on it. I met a friend there the last time I was there, from Canada actually as well, and he just, through his girlfriend, got a lot right on the beach. I mean, okay, it's busy. It's not a big lot, and it's right where the fishing community is, and so there's people there, and so obviously, but it's right on the beach, you know, and it's going to cost him. I hate misquoting things, but it's extremely low. I mean, he's got beautiful little cottage being built up, cement. I think it's half half, so it's half cement up the walls, and then the rest is going to be the bamboo style. Really nice, really clean, all modern, nice, going to be fixed up, and it's right on the beach. And again, very cost effective. He's on a budget. You know, he's below the $2,000 Canadian a month. Quite, you know, I'm not going to say quite below that, but below that. And yeah, there's no problem affording it and getting it going. And it's just, and he already has his other place he's renting now and stuff like that. So it's just, you know, these deals, yeah, they do exist, and are they worth doing? I really believe so. Depends what your mindset is at, but it's a risk reward thing. And again, I do analyze that. I mean, I look at it. I suffer from anxiety, and I always look at the worst case scenario on many things. So I look at, okay, this can happen, this can happen. What, you know, what can go wrong? And I try to be prepared for that as best as I can. But having said all of that, I still say it's worth it. A prime example is on one of my other videos, how to find the rental deals. If you're curious about that, I suggest you check out that video. But I rebuilt the house. It was like, actually, it was an old bar somehow kind of setting. It was very, very different, very solid, but it was right on the, well, it was right on the road, but right across the road was the beach. It did not have a proper kitchen. It had no windows for the airflow in the main area. Didn't have a proper bathroom. The CR wasn't all done up. But she was very flexible. And, you know, I offered, okay, I'll pay for, I need a window. If I'm going to rent from here, this, this, and this, and this. And I says, well, how much would you charge for rent? She says, oh, you know, 5,000 pesos here. I go, okay, fine. If you're comfortable, I will put 60,000 into it. I put a year's worth of rent into it. That's what it took for me to, reno everything, and I had my place. So my point on that one is that's on a smaller scale, but that worked out as well. Okay, I did not lose. And to me, I was thinking I'm taking that chance because I wanted to be right by the beach. I liked the location. I just didn't like the fact it had no air and it had no neighbors on the side. It was a forest on the side, so I put the window right there. The air was coming through there. The other side was a huge lot. It was like 2,000 or 3,000 square meters, and the house was way up, and it was like a rest house. The guy was never hardly there. It was all manicured and beautiful coconut trees. Nobody behind. The only traffic and the noise I had was literally in front of the thing, and it was right on the beach. So a point being is, again, risk reward. And I'm really curious what you guys think, what you think about this particular topic, and would this be something you would do? Are you interested in that? Do you want help finding something like that? Let me know in the comments. And by all means, and if you want more information about the legal aspects of the law, like I said, I'm going to give you a real quick good little hint. For example, the lease, I found a really good lawyer, and she had recommended, actually I was thinking of that at that time I was looking at it. She was saying, okay, if you're going to pay for this whole thing up front and so on and so forth, and you're building on that, so you can put a clause in there saying that because you've upgraded the value of the land, they cannot significantly raise any kind of price or any kind of renegotiating thing for the second term. There's all legal mumbo jumbo in there, but it limits them saying like, okay, well, now I want this after 25 years, which makes sense. You've added an increased value to the land, and that's, a value. And most people that are going to do this lease, they already know they're probably going to be locked in potentially for 50 years on this lease. Or they'll just say, no, we don't want to make that lease for the second term. Like that could be a clause on their end, okay? Another thing you can do is so you're protecting yourself, you can do with the lease, you can put in there saying, I have the right to back out. I'll give you, let's just say, especially if you're doing a payment or something like that. These are all different little scenarios, but you can, like for example, I found land where the land was never bought, and you just lease it, okay, year after year. It goes up incrementally, but you could literally put in a thing on there, okay, I want it for 25 years, you can't back out, I want to be able to build, and so on and so forth, but I want to have the option of backing out without affecting my, I can't get sued, I can't get blacklisted, and so on and so forth. And really, it's not a disadvantage for the owner because you are doing upgrades, so he's going to be happy if you do leave because you've got this house on here. And I only again, I put that in there thinking worst case scenario. Maybe all of a sudden some disaster happens right beside me and I just can't handle living there. I don't know. That's how I think. So it doesn't hurt to put it in the clause. Why not? Doesn't cost me any extra. Okay. So I put that in there, something like that. That's a recommendation that I would definitely do. And you can do it. Okay. So I really wanted to touch base on that because these are options that are available, and you are protected with the lease. You really are. There's a lot of, I mean, at the end of the day, I know I'm probably going to get some negative comments there, but you are, as a foreigner, very well protected. You're also protected on your outbuildings. You own your outbuildings. It's the land they don't want to part with, okay? And it's a smart law for the Filipinos. It's a very good law. I think it protects the value of the land. If every foreigner could buy land, it would be screwed for the Filipinos. They wouldn't be able to afford their own land. So I think it's a great law for them. It sucks for me, but it's a great law for them. But like I said, the lease is ironclad and as ironclad as it can be. And also your structures that you put on there, they are yours. You own them. There's a value to them. So if things break, you can get compensated if the lease has an issue, so on and so forth. And that is a valid fact as well. So again, risk reward, yes, 100%. And guys, it all comes down to finding your comfort. If you can find your own chunk of land, you can have your pets and your little garden and your little paradise away from, the noise and all this kind of stuff, and you're happy and you're content. I mean, what would you pay for rent? If you're looking at something if you're looking at that kind of zone, your rent on these places are going to be minimum 20,000 pesos and up. I've seen places that are 30, 35,000. I thought, oh, that's kind of like perfect, right? So now, if you can get the land for lease and you're looking at, 5,000, 6,000 a month for the land, just the lease, and you got to put, 3, 4, 500,000 pesos into it for building your own little paradise. Hey, for 25 years, obviously it's a no-brainer, cost effective, it's way cheaper, and you're building it to your liking. Again, guys, if you want information more on this, leave comments, because I'm going to tell you right now that I don't want to I try to make my videos very broad, knowledgeable, quickly for you, but I can go on rants, okay? I get sidetracked because it's exciting, and I have found many deals like this by just talking. I found land that was owned by Filipinos, of course, but then their family was abroad, and they says, oh yeah, you can do this or you can do that and stuff like that. Lots of options. There are lots of options, okay? And you can have common sense prevails, okay? Just common sense. If it sounds too good to be true, be careful. There's things to protect yourselves. You got to be careful, okay? There are some horror stories out there. You can lose your shirt on certain things, but you can get a lawyer to back up a lawyer kind of stuff. There's certain things, okay? Again, I'm over analytical when it comes to this kind of stuff. I look at things and I break them all down, and I don't go by. And otherwise, the reason why I like doing these videos, because, for example, I've driver's license or something. You hear all these stories. Oh, you can do this, you can get away with that, you can do that. I don't like that. I like my peace of mind. I'd like to know I'm driving properly and legally there. And I do the same thing when I look at anything out there, legally and properly, and doing it the right way. And that way I can sleep better at night. Still doesn't mean it can't go wrong, okay? But at least I've done the best I could, and I don't have to regret thinking, oh, that was stupid on my behalf, okay? And by doing all that research that I have done, I've spoken to different lawyers on this several times, just to make sure, because you hear about stories that they had a lawyer and still went awry. You can do backup search, how long they've have the land there. You can actually find out where the land's been listed. There's certain things there too. You don't have to necessarily take it from the lawyer's word of mouth. You can actually find, there's a registry office as well. There's all sorts of ways to really hammer down proper things there, okay? You're not out in the wind by yourself. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all your support. I really appreciate you subscribe, comment, follow, share along. And I engage in this kind of stuff. So by all means, ask away, and I'll see what I can do to help out. But yeah, anyway, everybody take care and have a great day.